Ready?
Okay.
Okay. Hi, I'm Mari Perron, and I'm here today with one of my good friends, Rod Chelberg. And Rod and I met in a mysterious way. I actually am not sure how we met. I think by email. By email. And do you remember what prompted you to email me?
I read your book,
Okay.
A Course in Love. And you lived in St. Paul, and my dad lives in Minneapolis. And I thought, I wonder if she'd be willing to meet me.
That's kind of what I was thinking it was too. Yeah, and that was so wonderful. You being, having a reason to come here a couple of times a year.
Correct.
So we've been doing this, at least I'm thinking from 2010, I'm thinking at least about 5 years now. Yeah, and a couple of trips a year, and it's amazing how you can get connected to a person. And I mean, because you have that dedicated time. You have a couple of hours. Maybe it's only a couple of hours twice a year, but it's just the two of you. And we like to go to Como Park, Como Conservatory in St. Paul. But it's the conversation, and it's the connection that we have. And interestingly enough, a lot of the people I have become close to through email, because we don't have that opportunity to visit. But that hasn't been the way for us. So that's really interesting to me, that we have been able to do this in a way I haven't really with other people. The short, lovely connections that we have, and all around this topic of basically love.
Correct.
And the power of love. Yeah. And you are a physician, and one of the reasons I remember it was like 2010 was because I had frozen shoulder, and you gave me a little bit of guidance on how to help heal frozen shoulder. And then you also met my mother-in-law, who I cared for a bit on one of your visits here.
Right.
And you met my grandson.
Yep, Henry.
And you are such a master of all trades that you had a love affair with Seven Corners hardware store and the employees there who you would help. And Henry was bought a pocket knife from there on one of our trips. So it's like this opportunity almost, I think, in your profession to become familiar with people on both a human and spiritual level.
Correct.
And that's really what interests me today, is how, of course I'm always anxious to hear how Course of Love had any, bearing on that, but it's mainly just the actual reality of who we are as human and divine beings, and what you've been able to bring forward in mainly private conversations so far, but you're beginning to speak a little bit about this connection.
And write a little bit,
Yeah.
and lecture a little bit. And
Okay.
they're starting to pull me out of my shell, which is a very conservative shell, meaning the medical profession.
Of course.
We don't talk about spirituality, love, and communication, and death and dying, and what's beyond that. It's just, we want to give you medicine, and that's it. So this is very different for me.
And there's so many things we disassociate love from. I mean, I was thinking the other day that until A Course of Love, I had never associated love and learning. And people don't associate love, or haven't specifically, love and healing. And I mean, I really don't know anything about much of spirituality and the healing things that are taking place. But I've noticed just in seeing the doctor, the little bit that I do, and I usually do get in conversations with my physicians. And so one was telling me just recently that in October, the 70 categories that they have to use to define what they're doing with the body are turning into like 7,000. They want everything very precise and down to the smallest, like this piece of you, not your whole arm.
Correct.
And so the wholeness is becoming less and less common because of insurance companies, probably rather than medicine. But so these are just some of the topics, love, the way love is connected, the way wholeness is connected to who we are,
Mm-hmm.
and how you've seen some of those things. I thought, you're in town one more time, I get a chance to talk to you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. So, my approach is very different when I deal with patients. Everybody's my friend. First off, they're not a number. They're not an illness. They're not. It doesn't matter. I've treated everybody from the President of the United States to the homeless people. It does not matter to me. And what is important is the listening, the communication, and the touch. I need all three of those, and with that I can get a very deep level of communication with somebody. Touch is important, looking in their eyes. People start to trust me, they relax, their defenses go down, their fear goes down, and we communicate on a whole different level. Just like you and I talk, we don't talk about the sunshine and the weather. It's right straight into what's in my heart and what is it that I'm seeing. And there's a connectivity. I can already feel it right now that there's mental communication, but my heart is also glowing, and I can see yours is glowing. That is when healing occurs, is because I take your thoughts of fear and pain and sort of push them aside and let you see the truth of your being, and I let that light that's within your heart radiate into your body. Healing occurs.
Are you saying that you do this consciously? With a patient, do you do it consciously?
Yes.
And with, perhaps with me, it's not consciously, it's just happening all the time? Does it become
It's
rather seamless, or?
sometimes I have to work at it.
Mhm.
If somebody's very angry,
Mm-hmm.
they're hallucinating. I should say I'm an emergency room doctor, so I deal with trauma. I deal with sore throats, broken bones, everything. That's my bailiwick. Sometimes I have to work at it and say, Christ, walk in front of me and bring peace to this situation. That person is upset, and they see me as peaceful and non-threatening. They relax, and then the communication can start. Sometimes when people are hurt, like a trauma patient, there's not that anger that I have to get through. They're automatically reaching out to me, and then there's instant communication.
Mm-hmm.
So it goes both ways depending on the situation as to. But my first thought is, if there's a fight or there's anger, then I step back and I say, Christ, walk in front of me and bring that person peace.
Mm-hmm.
Then the communication can open up. So it's a little different.
You know, just a thought, a weird question came to me as you were talking. You know how you get into interpersonal difficulties, conflicts with people,
Mhm.
arguments,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe those are fueled by emotion, maybe by the mind. Which would you say is the easier to work with? The body, or this combination of...
If it's just the body and they're unconscious, it's very easy to deal with them.
Yeah.
I'll put a breathing tube in, or I'll give them some drugs. They're unconscious. I like that. But when the emotions are in play, now I've got an ego that's coming at me with either fear or attack or something. And there I have to learn not to react to that, which is very common in medicine. It's like, you're being very difficult, you're obviously, difficult. I'm going to give you a drug, knock you down. And my approach is to take a step, take a breath, and they see that I'm not reacting, I'm not engaging in that fear. And I'm responding with love. I'm responding with peace. And the patient will then say, I feel safe. And it'll only take about 4 or 5 minutes. They will totally relax every time. I've had police in the room with a violent patient, and I'll sit down and I'll say, looks like you're having a bad day. And I put my arm around them, and I'm just quiet. They totally relax. So it's just a different set of skills and when to use what you need.
And I'm thinking that too is the connection of the humanity and divinity You are going to look someone in the eyes. That you have the instinct to do this. It's not, you aren't just beaming them peace. You are connecting as a human being.
It's a total connection. It
Yeah.
really is. And once they feel that safety, especially in their heart, once they feel that, when people are that scared, they're no longer an adult, they're a little child.
Yeah.
And you've got to reach down to that child and tell them it's perfectly safe. Nothing bad is going to happen. I'm going to take care of your pain. And they let go. And then there's total communication.
Mm-hmm.
They're talking to me, but I'm also getting body language, eyes. There's a total body connection.
Yeah.
So it's a little different.
Now, a few years ago, you transitioned from the ER. You did that for many, many years, but now you're working with people at the end of life.
Correct. Yep.
And you have had some amazing experiences with that have a lot to say to all of us. And I just wondered if, you would be willing to share some of that, how that is heart connected. And
the first time that I really had a very vivid visual, what I call mystical experience, was in the ER.
Mm-hmm.
And a lady came in who was in cardiac arrest, and she was so far that we couldn't save her, so I called the code.
Uh-huh.
And she was gone. And I decided that normally I pray for my patients when they pass away, but this lady, I picked up her hand and held it to my chest over my heart. And in that instant, time and space changed. I could see her aura. Her face was perfectly clear, outlined with kind of electricity. She sat up and looked at me and said, "Thank you," while I'm holding her hand.
Mm-hmm.
And towards my left side, this red aura, which I describe as Christ, came, and I said, "Will you please take this lady home for me?" He did. And so they melded together, and off to the left side there was a white, kind of a ball, and these golden doors open up. It's a time and space distortion, and they just floated up into it. And I realized that I just assisted in giving birth into heaven.
Mm.
The other thing that I realized is that if you consider this world and its reality, in that instant, when Christ is guiding them home, she'll never come back. She's back with her Father, our God, a thought of love, never to come back.
Mm.
So all the mistakes and problems that she had, all the ups and downs, they meant nothing. And she was now free to go home. So that was my first experience of that happening.
Yes.
And then since then, I have had many variations on that theme of people dying. I get to see their aura, their face. I get to see Christ. Even with my own father, who just passed away, he was there, and I could see my dad.
Mm-hmm.
It happens almost all the time now. So, and even when somebody that I'm taking care of in hospice, I've never met them, I can still just stop and have a thought of love and say, "Please take this person home." Sometimes I see their face, sometimes I don't, but I always feel it.
Yes.
And I go, "That's one more for our side."
Mm.
And it's truly giving birth into heaven.
Mm-hmm.
And if people can stop being afraid of death
Yes.
and look at it for what it really is, it's a chance to go home like Monopoly. Instead of going to jail, it's a card to go home. My ability and talent is I can facilitate that. It is just, it's lovely. And just for that split second, I get to see heaven.
Mm.
I get to look inside and see such beauty,
Yes.
such light.
Yeah.
And there are no words for it, but it just fills me with such joy. A lot of times I'll cry a little bit. It's just so overwhelming. And afterwards, tremendous feeling of love, connectivity, security, peace. It's profound. Human love is nothing compared to this. And it's just so nice. On occasion, Christ has touched me on my shoulder, and he complimented me once. He said, "You've done a very nice job." And it was a difficult death. You helped the family. You got through, and now this person is ready to go. It's just the most beautiful, amazing experience that you could ever hope for. I really wish in the room when I'm doing this and I'm with patients, and a lot of times I'll hold them literally as they're dying, and I get to see that, and I want everybody in the room to see how beautiful this is. Sometimes there's relatives where you see the white auras of people in there.
You told me of that.
Yeah.
Was it with your dad?
With
that you
my
could
dad.
sort of recognize
Yeah.
these?
I
Yes.
said, "Who are all you people?" And they're beautiful white auras. Dad was the last in the family. And then I saw Uncle Vernon. And I said, "I know who you are." And the family came back to help Dad in that transition time. Other times I've seen, I guess that I call them angels, but white orbs that will float around and just support that person. And true, Christ is there with them. So I get to see all of this, and it is just so beautiful. Time and space change, perception change, there is no judgment. There's a deep connection to all of us, almost as if all of our hearts are connected by this. People relax, they feel this deep peace and security, and they're going, "Wow, that was beautiful." And this happens almost every single time. It's such a gift, and I feel so honored to be a part of that. So
Absolutely. It occurred to me as you're talking, you said something like this love of Jesus, or love, the divine love is so much greater. I have really felt that the message of A Course of Love is to be an embodiment of, but in a way that we don't lose ourselves. So in being Rod, you are the embodiment of this divine love, which sounds like it may very well be happening. And so that power to bring that love through ourselves, I mean, do you see that as potentially being able to change the way things are on Earth?
absolutely. Absolutely. It's brick by brick, person by person.
Yes.
This is going to touch people. This light is going to shine. You can't suppress it. The more people let go of their ego personality, which is what I really work at, it's no longer Rod doing this. It's no longer Rod getting the credit. This is Christ. This is love. My heart is glowing. And the ego is very quiet. So the trick is, I need to work on making him quiet. In other words, I'm in control of the ego. The ego is not in control of me, and I can say, "You need to be quiet now." And when I say, "Let Christ walk in front of me," my brother is right here, and he'll walk in, and no matter what the situation is, he'll fix it. And then he says, "I need you to talk for me because they can't hear me. I need you to touch them." It's available to everyone because everyone has that in their heart. And you can start to see, if you look carefully, that infant child of innocence in the heart. And if we get out of our heads, all the distractions of life and Republicans, Democrats, cars, that's all a distraction, and you push that aside, then this heart can communicate, and it'll communicate through your mouth and through here and through touch, and it radiates. It's a light, and people see that. It's practice, and it's believing that it can happen, and then hearing things like this where someone actually talks about it and says, "I can see it. I can see it."